Hello everyone, I hope you are well. I wanted to record this introductory video on blockchain, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies to create structured reference content. After watching this video, I hope you will understand the fundamentals of blockchain technology, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. So let's get started. Bitcoin, the first blockchain. Bitcoin is the first blockchain. Bitcoin is a decentralized digital currency created in 2009 by a person or group of people using the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto. Unlike traditional currencies, such as the euro or the dollar, Bitcoin exists only in digital form and is not controlled by any central bank or government. Bitcoin is based on blockchain technology. The blockchain is a decentralized public register that records all Bitcoin transactions. Each block contains a list of transactions and is linked to the previous block, forming a chain. One of Bitcoin's key features is that it's decentralized. This means that there is no central authority controlling the network. Instead, the network is maintained by thousands of computers called nodes, scattered worldwide. Bitcoin transactions are sent directly from person to person via the internet without going through a bank. They are fast, secure, and relatively inexpensive, especially for international transfers. Bitcoin uses cryptography to secure transactions and control the creation of new units. Transactions are pseudonymous, meaning users' identities are not directly associated with their Bitcoin addresses. Why use Bitcoin? Thanks to blockchain, all transactions are transparent and immutable, meaning they cannot be altered once they have been recorded. This guarantees their security and integrity. Bitcoin allows users to control their finances without depending on traditional financial institutions. This is particularly useful in regions with unstable banking systems. Since its inception, Bitcoin's price has grown spectacularly. It's not easy to say. Since its inception, Bitcoin's price has grown spectacularly, attracting the attention of investors. However, it's important to note that the cryptocurrency market is highly volatile. How to get Bitcoins? You can buy Bitcoin on cryptocurrency exchange platforms using traditional currencies. You can use my affiliation link that is in the description. It's a Coinbase affiliation link and you will get reduction on fees if you use this link, and it will help to develop this channel. So thank you for those that will use this link. Mining is the process by which new Bitcoins are created. Miners use powerful computers to solve complex mathematical problems that validate transactions on the network. As a reward, they receive new Bitcoins. Some companies and individuals accept payments in Bitcoin. You can also earn Bitcoins by offering goods or services in exchange for this cryptocurrency. 2. Blockchain technology. To explain this new technology as simply as possible, I will read an article entitled "Explaining Blockchain with Pokémon Cards." I will include the link to the article in the video description. Let's imagine we are children sitting in a school playground. The good old days. We each have our Pokémon cards to trade, and we have decided to exchange two cards of equal value. There is nothing special about this process, we just agree that this transaction is fair. I give you my card and you give me yours. That's easy. At 10 years old, we feel responsible and don't need to ask the teacher to supervise this exchange and certify that the cards are correctly negotiated. It's not obvious that everyone has their own card. I can see it, so can you. We agree that the transaction was completed as it should have been, very efficiently. Everyone got what they wanted and no tears were shed. But let's imagine the following situation. We exchange digital version of Pokémon cards. Let's say I have the highest value card in the game, there is only one copy in circulation and I want to transfer it to you. How can you be sure I didn't make a copy on my computer before sending it to you? What if I make 1000 copies and sell them all as one? There is no way for you to be sure I didn't do that. It would be a negative consequence for you and the Pokémon community as a whole if a rare card that's supposed to be unique were to lose value through overabundance. This problem is known as double spending, an unsolved computer problem before the Bitcoin protocol was created. Indeed, when you exchange two digital assets, how can you be sure that no one has sent the same digital asset simultaneously? How can I convince you that I haven't duplicated that famous Pokémon card I want to send you? We can use a ledger to record our exchange. Nintendo, the company that owns the Pokémon franchise, could control this history and see all Pokémon card exchanges to ensure that no one duplicates any cards. The problem with this configuration is that a third party has come to stick its nose into our business, and that's annoying. It's not just you and me in the schoolyard because we needed to put our trust in a third party. But the problem is the same at the end. How can you be sure that a Nintendo employee hasn't secretly duplicated the card and given it to his little brother? Conclusion? So we can't be 100% sure that nobody is changing history to their advantage. But there is an interesting question to raise. What happens if instead of saving this history via a Nintendo server, we give a version of the history to each Pokémon player wishing to exchange these cards? There are thousands and thousands of Pokémon fans worldwide, so if everyone maintains a copy of this famous history, everyone could be notified that I have sent you my rare card. This way, the histories could prove that only one card, like the one I sent you, exists. So if I secretly duplicate my card and wish to keep it on my account, my copy of the history would not be compatible with anyone else's and would be rejected. How can the whole network really check that our Pokémon card exchange is correct? Things are going to get complicated from now on. Let's take an example. Let's say there are 1000 computers participating in this Pokémon card exchange network, which we will call nodes. All these nodes have a copy of the distributed registry, the transaction history, and each node runs the software that enables them to communicate. They aim to validate each Pokémon card exchange independently. These nodes must agree on what they want to show on the history and therefore on the network. If I'm dealing with you, the transaction is placed in a temporary unconfirmed block awaiting validation. A sample of nodes will fight to validate all these unconfirmed transactions during a given period, say plus or minus 10 minutes, which is the case for Bitcoin. These nodes are also known as miners. Their main mission is to validate these groups of transactions, blocks, because they can win a large stack of Pokémon cards as a reward for their efforts. This history of all Pokémon card exchanges is stored as a blockchain technology, constituting a distributed and shared register. Miners then compete to be the first to validate a new block. They expend a large amount of computing power in an attempt to solve a cryptographic puzzle. The strength of the network is that it requires hard work to discourage and prevent participants from cheating. You won't attack the registry if the cost is too great. If the gain from attacking the network minus the resources required to attack it is less than zero, then you would better off using your resources to help secure the network and get paid for it. Once a miner has found the solution to this puzzle, he validates a block. He signs it electronically to prove that it has been verified and announces this news to the network of nodes. This miner distributes the verified block to the entire network, updating their ledger versions with the new transactions. However, no nodes need to trust another, so each time a new block is created, all the nodes check each transaction to ensure there is no double spending. This is how the network reaches consensus. But now, let's imagine the following situation. I have sent you one of my Pokémon cards to have something real, something palpable. Let's say lunch. It's perfect timing, I'm very hungry. What happens if I make the exchange with you, take your lunch, and try during my digestion, the famous 10 minutes, to send the card I have just sent you back to someone else? Let's say the exchange A was our exchange and exchange B is the second. Once again, we encounter the problem of double spending. The network doesn't know the right exchange, so how will it decide? Both will go into a block of unconfirmed transactions and generally be processed chronologically. Because blockchain technology verifies chronologically, the further down the transaction chain is, the more secure it is. If exchange B is validated first, it is the true transaction in the eyes of the various history holders, and exchange A represents double spending. The idea is to wait 10 minutes before agreeing to pay for my lunch. Once the verification is done and the transaction appears on the network as accepted, you can take my Pokémon card and I enjoy a delicious meal. Everything is beautiful in the best of all possible worlds. That may not be the case. What if I'm greedy and don't want to play by these rules? What's to stop me from returning later in the history and removing that first transaction so I can redeem the card again and get more meals? This transaction is stored in a block of information and blocks are linked linearly in time, so it's probably stored behind the pile of blocks by now. If 9 new blocks had been added since my first exchange, I could find the 10th block where my transaction is stored and delete it, right? No, because remember that each block is assigned a digital signature. It's generated using the information in that block. So changing the information, deleting my transaction, for example, will automatically change the signature. And to make things even more hostile for me, every signature in every block is determined by the signature preceding it. So all the previous ones are also modified by modifying one signature. So I have to solve the problem of the signature of the 10th block in the chain and the 9 preceding ones. I must cheat on over 50% of the network to have a majority and form a consensus. Generating electronic signatures and making new calculations requires incredible power, which is hard to achieve. And yes, just like that, we have created an open, decentralized, irreversible, and inforgeable network for exchanging our digital assets. This is a fairly simplistic version of how Bitcoin and blockchain technology work, but it's very easy to see that the technology used by Bitcoin makes it unique and fascinating. Congratulations, you know more about blockchain technology than 95% of people via the Pokémon world. 3. Cryptocurrencies. A cryptocurrency is a form of digital currency that uses cryptography to secure transactions and control the creation of new units. Cryptography secures transactions and controls the creation of new cryptocurrency units. For example, public key cryptography allows users to generate key pairs, public and private, to send and receive funds securely. A cryptocurrency wallet is an application or hardware device that stores, sends, and receives cryptocurrency. It contains your private keys, which are needed to sign transactions. Wallets can be online, hot wallets, or offline, cold wallets. Smart contracts are autonomous programs that run automatically when predefined conditions are met. They run on blockchain platforms such as Ethereum and enable decentralized applications, dApps creation. Government and financial authorities are still trying to understand how to regulate them effectively. Although cryptocurrency transactions are secure, users need to be vigilant about the security of their wallets. Hacker attacks and scams are risks to consider. Cryptocurrencies represent a major innovation in finance and technology. They offer new possibilities for financial transactions, investments, and the creation of decentralized applications. However, as with any innovation, it is essential to understand both the opportunities and the risks before committing to their use or investment. The next video will be about the week starts on Friday, a concept that I wanted to share. Until then, everything is possible and doable. You just have to love it and want it.